For this video, I'd like to share a process for finding resources for teachers and school library media specialists that focus on the topic of science, technology, engineering, and math, or the STEM subjects. President Obama said that science is more than a school subject or the periodic table or the properties of waves. It is an approach to the world, a critical way to understand and explore and engage with the world, and then have the capacity to change that world. STEM subjects are about a way of thinking and bringing that way of thinking to students and bringing it alive in students. One of the reasons why it's so important that we focus on STEM subjects is that we're preparing students for their future. So in Kansas, the State Department of Education has identified 16 career clusters. And although one of those clusters is science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM subjects, many of these other careers rely on information gained from one of those four areas in STEM education. We know that many of the fastest growing jobs in the country today focus on areas that deal with STEM education, that those subjects of science, technology, engineering, and math provide the foundation for some of the fastest growing careers. The school library media specialist plays a critical role in preparing students and supporting teachers striving to offer STEM concepts in the school curriculum. One way that a librarian can do this is to integrate children's literature into instructional lessons, whether that's reading an informational picture book that leads into a science experiment, or reading a children's novel with characters that inspire children to ask questions or solve problems. The purpose of this video is to walk through the process of locating STEM resources. It's a process that can be used by teachers and school librarians as they're seeking those resources to integrate into their own teaching. For this process, I'm going to focus on the resource of WorldCat. It's a tool for locating resources, a digital tool. It's the reason that I chose this resource is that the user can input your zip code, and it will show you, once you identify a book, it will show you where that book can be found in libraries within a certain radius from your zip code. So if it's not in your local library, it could be in a nearby library, it could be requested through interlibrary loan. And so it's a resource that lets users get access to materials, books, and other media, whether it's local or possibly from far away. WorldCat is also the tool that oftentimes is used by local libraries in their digital catalog, whether it's the full WorldCat or maybe it's just parts of it that are kind of integrated with the site that the library has developed. So it's a tool that for people who are familiar with searching digitally for books, it's one that's probably going to be known, or at least the process of it should be familiar, because you can look for resources searching by author, title, subject areas, and lots of other tools that WorldCat makes available. I encourage you to create a WorldCat account. Now you can go in and search without an account, but I've already created mine, and I'm going to go to WorldCat right now. And one of the advantages of using the website with your own account is that you can do a lot of cool things. You can save your list of books that you've been looking for. You can save the search that you pull up using your search terms. You can create a public or a private profile. You can share a list of books that you found with someone else. You can read lists that other people create. You can review books. There's all kinds of great things that you can do if you want to go that route, and that's what having the account lets you do. But like I said, you can definitely search without an account, and that may be useful for you too. So I'm going to start my search using the term science and juvenile. And here I get lots of resources, over 53,000 of them. Now, I told you there's some cool things that you can do when you're signed into your account, and we'll get to those in just a minute. But on this initial list, if I wanted to, I could go through and refine my search. I could do that if I wanted to select a certain author, a certain year, a certain language, definite type of content, an audience, but I'm going to go down here to topics because I think this is particularly useful for people who are looking for resources for teaching the STEM subjects. Because down here under topics, I'll have a wide collection of different topics that I can go through. So if I myself may not be a science expert, I may not have a strong science background, so I may not know which search terms to use to find quality science resources for teaching science in the classroom. I can use the topics listed here to help get me on the right track, and then I can narrow my search down a little bit more based on those topics. So that's one good place to start. I'm just going to pick the first book on my list, Science Verse by John Siska and Lane Smith. And what I see here is it's pretty much a typical entry for a book that you might see. But here's where we get into some of the cool things that WorldCat lets you do. I could click and add this book to a list I may be creating, which I have. I'm creating a list of children's literature to use in STEM education. So I can add this book to my list, and I can come back to that list other times. I can add tags to it that will help me organize my list, so it's easier if I want to find all the science books as opposed to the math books. I can use tags to help me organize those. I can write a review of the book, keep that private to myself, or I can make that public and share it with other users. I can rate the book. I can email it to someone else, share it with someone else. So those are some of the good opportunities I have to interact with other people who use WorldCat, or to just keep track of what I've found. Now as I scroll down, you can see I have my zip code here, so I have the 6 closest libraries for me to find a copy of Science Verse, which is pretty handy. I also could order it if I wanted to, linking directly out of WorldCat. I can get some more information about the book, and that information might help lead me to other science books that are useful in STEM education. So I have the description of the book. I could access the publisher's description of the book. I have the abstract of the book. But as I scroll down, I'm getting to some other resources that might be helpful. I can read a review of the book from Goodreads, several of those, so I can get different people's opinions. Some give it 5 stars, some give it 3. I can read a review written by children on Dogo Books. I can look at other people who have tagged this book and the categories that they've used. This is the one I think might be particularly helpful to people looking for STEM resources. I can search for related subjects, but I can also visit other people who have set up accounts in WorldCat and look at their list. And their list may have other books that will lead me to other resources. So it's really, it's kind of a snowball effect when you get into WorldCat, because you're not just finding that one book, but you've opened a door to lots of resources that can lead you to many other books that can then help you create that list of resources for teachers or for yourself as a school librarian to use in STEM education instruction. I'm going to end here. Hopefully you'll get a chance now to go and try WorldCat yourself. Do some exploring, set up your account, start your list, and you'll be well on your way.